Good. Are you guys ready for a really great story? Well, I wasn't very enthusiastic. Are you guys ready for a really great story? Yeah. All right. So, once upon a time, there was this neighborhood. And in this neighborhood was a big house with 2 stories. And on the first floor lived a grandma and a grandpa. Now, the grandma was always cooking really, really, really good food. And whenever she'd leave the window open, the smell of the food would go outside, and the entire neighborhood could smell it. And all the kids from the neighborhood would come by, and every now and then she'd give them some of her like pie or something. And anytime anybody wanted food or water, her house, the door was always open. And now the grandpa, he made furniture. So he had a whole workshop in his garage where he would hammer things and saw things and drill things all day long, and he made really, really good furniture. And on the second story of the house lived their children with their children. So the entire family lived in this one house, and the entire neighborhood loved them very, very much. Now, the grandma was the only Christian in the entire house, though, and she constantly wanted to do family worship together, but unfortunately, she was the only Christian and nobody else wanted to join her. So whenever she wanted to do worship, she would go out on the porch and she'd sit in her rocking chair and she'd have worship by herself out there, just her and God, and her pet parrot. You guys know what parrots are, right? Yeah, they're birds, are colorful, really pretty. And every week, or every day for weeks, she'd go out there and she'd have worship out loud and she'd sing her worship songs, and soon enough, her parrot would start singing along. Now, her parrot, his name was Bobica, and he loved singing the worship songs with her, and they'd sing together, and soon enough, the parrot learned to say a few things. Now, you guys know parrots can talk, right? And how does a parrot sound? They don't sound like humans, right? What kind of voice does a parrot have?
They have like a loud, screechy voice.
Do you want to try it? Do you want to try it? No? That's fine, I'll do it. So the parrot learned to say a very specific phrase. He would always say, "Repent, sinners, Jesus is coming." All the time. "Repent, sinners, Jesus is coming." The grandma would laugh, and then she'd go on with her devotion. Now, Grandpa was getting a little old, so he hired an extra hand to help him build the tools. And he hired a guy named Stephen. Now, Stephen was a little bit lazy, so whenever Grandpa would leave the garage, Stephen would just sit in the corner and pull out his phone and play games or text his friends. And, this wasn't good because he was getting paid to help Grandpa, but he was just sitting in the corner. So the parrot learned after a while to say something else too, and every time Stephen would go and sit in the corner, he'd say, "Stephen, get back to work." Every time, "Stephen, get back to work." And Stephen got really, really annoyed because this parrot was ratting him out. And so he'd have to get back to work. And one day he got really, really, really upset with the parrot. And so when he left, he opened the door to the cage and just left. So what do you think happened when he left the door open?
The parrot flew away.
That's right, the parrot flew away, and the parrot was outside, so it wasn't just loose in the house or anything, it flew away outside. Now, a few doors down, there lived a lady named Linda. Linda was just in her bed, she was doing her nightly routine, whatever she was doing, her window was open to her bedroom. And all of a sudden, late at night, she hears, "Repent, sinners, Jesus is coming." She was terrified, she was an atheist, she didn't know what was going on. And so she went and listened to the window. "Repent, sinners, Jesus is coming." She freaked out. What's going on? So she goes outside, and it's dark outside, so she can't see anything. She just keeps hearing this over and over. "Repent, sinners, Jesus is coming." So she calls up her neighbor, Susan. She says, "Susan, come here. Something really weird is going on." So her friend Susan comes over, and again, the voice over and over. "Repent, sinners, Jesus is coming." Soon enough, the entire neighborhood was in Linda's yard listening to this voice. They didn't know where it was coming from. And Grandma finally heard the commotion. She came outside too, joined the crowd, and when she heard the voice finally, "Repent, sinners, Jesus is coming," she went, "Oh, that's Bobica. He's probably up in the tree." So everybody was relieved that they weren't just hearing weird voices in the middle of the night. They climbed the tree, and they got Bobica safely back in his cage. Now, everybody in the neighborhood had heard this, and they were like, "This is really interesting," and they asked the grandma about it. How'd this happen? How did he learn to say these things? And Grandma happily told them how she was a Christian, and they all wanted to learn more about it. And so she started having Bible studies, and some of the people even got baptized, and her entire family, because of this, also became Christians. So, the point of the story is that you guys may think you're little or something, and you can't really do much to be of a ministry to God. But if he can use a parrot, you guys are way, way smarter and better than a parrot. The parrot just repeats things, but God even used a parrot. And anytime you feel like maybe I'm too small, you think of David and Goliath, right? He slew a giant, and maybe you think, well, I don't know, David's kind of brave. I'm not really very brave. But it doesn't matter if you're brave or not. A parrot isn't brave. It flies away whenever a cat shows up. And Jesus himself said that even the stones will start speaking if you guys don't start speaking. And I mean, stones don't have mouths. God would so much rather use you guys who have mouths and who have a love for God. So just remember, in your everyday lives, you guys can be of service to God, and your love for him can show to everybody around you. Thank you.